listening to the Estheticians Earning More podcast with Brittany Hageman, episode number 164. Welcome to the Estheticians Earning More podcast. On this podcast, we talk about how to love your esthetician business without the hustle, exhaustion, or overwhelm as it booms into a successful business. I teach simple ways how to approach your business that gives you your life back while still growing a profitable business. I grew BLH Beauty in San Diego to a 6-figure business, and I learned a lot along the way, which I'm excited to share with you here. So let's get started. Do you want to make $100,000 revenue in your esthetician business? If so, I would love to show you how. I want to invite you to coach with me in my one-to-one coaching program. It's completely customizable. The way that it works is we sit down and figure out what you've been doing in your business that hasn't been working, and then make a very specific plan that I help you follow over the course of 6 months to get it done. We meet weekly for 30 minutes and discuss exactly what went well that week and we're to do next week, whether it's your pricing needs to be raised, or you need to have boundaries with your clients, or if you need to learn how to sell skincare, or you need to niche down and you're doing way too many services and not making money, or all of the above. Whatever the issue is, whatever the reason is you're not making money, we'll figure it out together, and we will grow your business into a really profitable business that's sustainable, that you love, and that really helps people. I cannot wait to be your coach and to work with you. To learn more, go to the link in the show notes. And with that, on with today's episode. Happy Monday. Welcome back. I am so excited to share with you today this conversation that I had with Samantha Siffring. She's a business coach for online women primarily, and so people who have online businesses. But one of the things that I love about Samantha is she's a master at marketing, and she actually wrote a book called Copy That Compels that I have used and loved and found incredible success with. Samantha's also my business coach. That's how I have known of her and learned so much from her. And her book is a book that you get if you're one of her clients, and she recently published it so you can get it yourself. It's a workbook you can go through and really help figure out how to help your clients. And so today I talked to her, and I recorded this a few weeks ago with her, and I just went back and listened to it, and I'm just like taking notes of some of the things she was saying. So I'm like, oh yeah, this is so good. Like, she talks about like how to actually be relatable to people online when you're posting on social media, how to like build connection with people, and how to be more authentic online so you don't show up trying to emulate what you see other people do, and you do what you really want to do. So without further ado, I hope you enjoy so much my conversation with Samantha, and I will be back next week with another episode. Have a fantastic week.
I am so excited to have you on the podcast.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, first just tell everyone about you, and then we'll go from there. What you
Great.
normally do.
Okay, so I'm Samantha Siffring. I'm a business coach. I work with women, mostly moms, who have small businesses that they operate online. Typically, we work on basically everything. The operations, the marketing, selling, all the things. And you are one of my clients.
Yes, I have been for a year now, I think. It was like
It feels like it's been like years and years, like in a good way.
Yeah, I mean, I've been listening to your podcast for years and years. So that's probably why. I know about your life. But yeah, and so I've been working with Samantha for a year, and Samantha specializes in marketing is one of your specialties. I think you have a lot of them, but one of them is specialties. And you wrote a book.
Yes. Copy That Compels.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's called Copy That Compels. Initially, I wrote it, I think, in 2021 just for clients, and it was like a bonus thing and like in an offer that I had. And then this year I decided to publish it more widely. So I did that in February. I made some edits. It was pretty like the way that you talk to your clients and the way that you talk to the wider world is it's just a little different. So I did some edits, put it out there on Amazon. It's available to purchase in ebook and in like a workbook format, which is what I recommend. I don't know if you save the video from this recording,
I love.
but like it's like big size
I haven't
so that
seen it in
you
person.
can like fill in the blanks.
Oh, it's
Yeah.
so good. I actually, well, I have the books. I'm one of your
Yeah.
clients, but I printed it out on my computer.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
have it on like, right, so for a workbook as well. And
Mhm.
it is such a good marketing workbook or workbook and book because it is a workbook. It's not just a book where you're reading it and then you're like, okay, I guess this is helpful. I don't know how to apply it.
Mhm. Yeah, I really wanted it to be very practical. And I think that goes back to it being something that I initially created for clients. I think a lot of people initially create their book as a marketing tool. And so I don't know if you have noticed this when you're reading nonfiction, especially like business, personal development. It's like they tell a lot of stories to get the point across. It's like, okay, I always think this book could be a podcast episode. And like, I want to listen to a podcast episode. I don't want to read the full book. But I promise my book is not that way. It's pretty short. It's a bunch of like action steps and then ways to apply it right away.
Yeah, that is such a great point because it's not a marketing tool. It's not like, hey, come work with me. It's like this is the work.
Hmm.
This is
Yeah.
the work. Like this is
Yeah.
the work that you do if you work with you, essentially.
Hmm.
Yeah. What are you think the things that most estheticians struggle with marketing that maybe your book could help them with that?
Yeah. I don't, this is not like specific to estheticians. It's obviously your expertise and not mine. But I think that one of the things that I notice for most people with marketing that's difficult, and I imagine probably applies here too, is it's so easy to create your content and marketing from your own perspective and not the perspective of the person you're talking to. And so much of that book is really about getting you into the head of your ideal client
Mm-hmm.
and like how to actually get your mind in that place and then like how to look through what comes up for you then to create really compelling content that is really targeted towards them.
Mm-hmm. And I think, if you are at all pay attention to any of the people in the marketing world, the ideal client is discussed a lot, right? People talk
Mhm.
about this ideal client and what they should look like and what they like and their clothes that they wear. And I think that can be important, but I think the way that you teach it in this book is from a completely different perspective.
Mhm. Yeah, I used to like really be bothered by ideal client exercises. I have calmed down about it now. It's like if you're gonna do that and it's helpful for you, that's fine. It's not helpful for me to know their grocery store and like what shoes they wear and what car they drive. Like I just don't really care about those things. Like shop where you want, drive
Yeah.
what you want. But I do think it's important that you're understanding the inside of your client and like externally, what are the situations that they're in that are relevant
Mm-hmm.
to how you help them. Like one of the things that I talk about fairly often or have recently, like I've put some like memes out on my Instagram recently that were specifically about working at home when you also have kids at home in the summer. And I just know like I have the doors on my office are like French doors. So they have windows, like the whole thing is a window. And so I will have children sometimes, just mostly my 10-year-old, like looking in, and I can just like hear the breathing. So I always like talk about that type of thing in my content because my clients face that too. And the other day I was on a call with a client and she didn't notice, but I noticed that one of her children was in the background watching us. And I was like, we have a visitor. And she was like, wow, your marketing like really nails your ideal client. So like those are the types of things, right? Like it's
Mhm.
not like, oh, you're wearing these shoes. It's like, no, your child is standing at the door or standing behind you while you're working and heavily breathing. And it's a little creepy. And it's just like, yeah, that's what it's like to be an online business owner, mom in the summer.
Right. Right. I mean, there's been many calls where my daughter joins us, like, oh,
Oh
here
yeah.
she is. Here
Yes.
she is. And she sits in the lap and she wants to talk to you. And she's like, where's the, and,
Mm-hmm.
but that, yeah, since you understand that, that is that like people talk about it. And I know I've talked about it on this podcast, but like the know, like, and trust that people love to say to help people understand marketing, but that makes people feel like you know them, what they're going through
Yes.
versus like, you know, it can be important so they understand what services you do, but that's not why they're booking with you. They're booking with you because there's a relationship and there's connection there.
Mm-hmm.
Nine times.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, the esthetician would want to think about what is the experience of the person who's struggling with their skin?
Yeah.
Like they're waking up in the morning, like, are they afraid to look in the mirror?
Mm-hmm.
Are they like at night? Do they not want to take their makeup off before they get in bed with their partner? Like, do they, like
Yeah.
what are those things? And like, what are the reasons why they do the things they do? Like, that's the kind of stuff that you really want to dig into and create content for.
Yeah, and that's what the workbook will guide you through those things.
Yeah. Yep.
Like, yeah, how to look at that. Because yeah, a lot of the content, a lot of estheticians do, and that ends up getting reposted a lot is like this ingredient and why it's so beneficial for the skin. And that can be
Mm-hmm.
helpful here and there, but that doesn't make someone feel like they know you as a person.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think for a lot of service businesses, I don't follow a ton of estheticians. I follow probably a couple, but I follow a lot of tattoo artists. And I think the marketing is sort of similar,
Mm-hmm.
at least compared to like a coaching business.
Mm-hmm.
And something that I notice a lot is that they do a lot of like what it's like to be a tattoo artist content. And it's like, okay, sometimes it's funny. Sometimes it's not relatable at all because I'm not a tattoo artist.
Right.
Or it'll be like, what's your tattoo ick? Or like gently making fun of clients that come in or whatever. And it's like, that's definitely going to make me like afraid to go in.
Right.
So thanks for letting me know that you are judging me.
Right.
Because I will stay away from you. So you just have to be conscious of who is your content for.
Right. Yeah, because you've recently got in the tattoo world.
Yes.
Last year, right?
Last year. Yeah. So I got a tattoo like probably 14 or 15 years ago. One, and then did not get another for all of that time until last year. I just like had this mental shift where I had been like thinking like I'm not a tattoo person, but then was like, why? I admire them on other people. Like I had recently like seen several that I was like, oh, I like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, there's permanent stuff on my body I don't really care for. Stretch marks, moles, scars. Like I didn't choose any of that and it's not going away. So it's not like this, like, oh, this like perfect blemish free skin that is going to be ruined forever. It's like it already got ruined by things that I don't love. Like, why would I not put on something that I like looking at? And like, I'm not going to get tired of like flowers,
Yeah. Yeah. But and so then you instantly you got into the tattoo world
Oh
and
my
then you
gosh.
see this bad content of
Yes.
people and you probably want to like, yeah. And I think what happens, and I see this so often with estheticians, and I like this is one of the things I work on with my clients when they first start with me and like stop paying attention to other people's content, other estheticians' content, and stop making content for other estheticians because
Yes.
estheticians will make, a ick comment or a day in the life or something that's really aesthetically pleasing for other estheticians and they get a ton of engagement because people like
Mhm.
other estheticians love it.
Yeah.
They're marketing to estheticians all over the country who are never going to buy from them.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're like, this is so hard. I've worked so hard making this content and no one's signing up to be my client.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm sure there's somebody listening who's like feeling that way and is having an aha, like, oh, my stuff's been going viral, but with the wrong people.
Yes. Like I had a reel go viral a couple months ago, and it was, I think a lot of my audience really loved it, but it somehow got, it just like random people got it, and I got some like crazy mean comments about it that were not estheticians, were never gonna buy from me. So I ended up just like shutting down the reel because for some reason it just kept getting picked up again and again. And I'm like, that I don't want the algorithm to keep feeding these people content. They're not people I'm gonna ever sell to.
Mm-hmm.
And so like being really aware of that and like who is commenting on your posts.
Yeah. Something that I've noticed when things go viral, I have not had anything go seriously viral, but I've had quite a few clients who have. And something I notice every time is that there's this initial wave of like, it seems like it's going to the right people, and the comments are really good, really positive. And then the platform's like, people love this. We're going to send it to everyone. And there's like this tipping point where, like, I've seen with a lot of clients, they have like all these nice, supportive, like women, cheering them on, whatever. And then, like, I don't know what side of the internet it gets on, where it's like all these gross guys who are
Yes.
commenting.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And but again, you have to, I think what happens, and maybe we can talk about this because, and I say this to my clients, and something we definitely work on, is the people like believing if people put out content and then they get engagement from estheticians, and so that makes them feel that it's good because people are engaging, and so then they switch their content to things that are not esthetician related, that are not for estheticians, that are for their clients, and their engagement drops dramatically because estheticians find it really boring. Because we all would find it boring because we do every day. It's not interesting to us. And so then it's very hard to stay motivated to keep doing the content for that ideal client, because your engagement will be such a big shift from doing relatable esthetician content.
Yeah. And so you want to do relatable people with skin content.
Who aren't estheticians.
Exactly.
Obviously estheticians have skin too.
It's true.
Like, I get my lashes done, and there is so much content out there for lashes that isn't just showing the lashes, which of course, when you want to see someone's work, when you go to their Instagram page, but there's so many other things that you can be relatable to having lashes that has nothing to do with you lashing someone's lashes.
Mm-hmm. Although those are kind of satisfying videos sometimes.
Yeah. They're good to have.
Right.
They're good to have, but not every post, because then it's hard. I mean, and it also depends on what specifically you do to show your skill, because I think some of the esthetician services skill is more paramount than others. Like, put someone doing lashes doesn't always have the same amount of skills as the other person doing lashes. Same thing with hair removal. Like, just because someone can wax, I mean, they can wax really well. So it's good to show that skill, but not to the point where that people don't really know who you are.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that this gets at the fact that you need to have a variety of different things in the content. So I love the idea of like, you want to show skill. I think client testimonials, client stories, client before and afters, like whatever's the best way to show your work is really important and should be like one of the regular things that you're doing in your content. But there should also be other things, where you're like showing who you are. Because that's, like you said, a big part of why people are going to hire you is, do they like you? Do they feel like they click with you? Because that client's going to be laying there for a while, up close and personal with you, showing parts of themselves that they don't to probably anyone else. Or very few people, like I don't even like to show myself the like super magnified mirror of my face all the time. So knowing somebody's like up in it, it's like, it's kind of vulnerable. It needs to be somebody you really trust.
Yeah. I remember when I was in San Diego and I was in my BLH Beauty acne business, and I knew client come in, she's like, "Yeah, I'm following you on Instagram for a while, and I saw you in Trader Joe's last week, and I really wanted to say hi to you, but I didn't meet you yet." And I was like, it was like really sweet and also kind of creepy because I was like, wow, I guess people really know who I am on my Instagram. They know
Yeah.
what I look like, that she could, like see me at the store and be like, "Oh, that's Brittany."
Yes.
And so that like that tells me that like it works. And even like in this business, people are like, "Oh, I've been listening to your podcast or following you on Instagram. I feel like I already know you."
Yeah.
That's great. That means that people understand who you are from your content.
I agree. I agree. This just like, I don't know if we talked about this ever or not, but this just popped in my mind. I, on TikTok, probably over a year ago, found this, I think these two women who do waxing and made the best content. And I feel like this will be like a good inspiration for people to think about, like, what does it look like to create content for your ideal people? But they were thinking about, and like going through, like, before they created it, they were thinking about what are the things people are afraid of when they're thinking about getting waxed and
Mhm.
making this appointment. So they just went through and made a couple of different TikToks. Like, here's essentially dispelling all of the things that you're afraid of. Like, we're not judging you. Here's what our space looks like. Here's what it's like when you come in. Like, here's, I don't know, the temperature of
Yeah.
the wax, like whatever it was, like all kinds of things people could be afraid of that
Hmm.
they just like, I have been getting waxed for like 20 years and
Yeah.
I even felt more comfortable watching it.
Yes. Yes. Because and again, like what you said before, someone looking at your skin, like me looking at your skin, I don't think anything of it. There's like no judgment. It's just like not a thing for me.
Mhm.
But you don't know that. Like if you were coming
Right.
in to me, you don't know, to me, I'm not like, "Oh my gosh, her skin." I don't have that judgment about people's skin that maybe other people do, you
Or
know.
that the person's afraid that people do.
Right. Right. And really identifying that and making them feel more comfortable in your content before they even come in to
Yeah.
see you.
Yep.
Yeah,
I
and
think
then
that's
also
important.
obviously reiterating it when you're in person with them. But that goes
Mhm.
back to building that connection with someone online. I think this is where a lot of people struggle with when it comes, especially comes to online marketing, is they don't understand that that's the connection
Yeah.
part.
You
Like
can
you said, is like dispelling fears or dispelling myths or whatever. That is the part that connects you to someone, not like, you know, an ingredient. And my
Mhm.
ingredient is really great.
Yeah. Yeah, and, like, ingredients are interesting. I also like, I follow a lot of cosmetic chemists who talk about ingredients, but, like, they do it in a way that brings you in, you
Yes.
know? Like, they're not just, like, putting information on the screen. It's like, I'm talking to you about this product, and, like, first I'm talking about more interesting stuff about the product, you know, like,
Yes.
why do I like it? How does it work? What does it look like? Like, what's the container look like? What's the substance look like? And now let's talk about what's in it that helps it to be so good and like how specifically those different things make it good.
Mhm.
That I find fascinating. And I think hopefully this is like helpful also for people to see there's lots of different directions you can take this in
Mhm.
based on who you are.
Mhm.
So it doesn't always have to be like a funny skit. It doesn't always have to be a deep dive into ingredients. Like it doesn't have to be any particular type of content if that's not you.
Right.
So I think people really need to think about who am I? What is my personality? What's the kind of content I would put out where my best friend would be like, "Yep, that's my bestie." It's
Mhm.
like, "Whoa, she's like really in her professional mode." You know, like what is the non-persona version of you? And that content is going to be so much easier to create because
Mhm.
it is an extension of you. And then
Mhm.
it's so much easier to produce a lot of content and produce it consistently. So I am a huge proponent of looking at like, who am I? What makes sense for me?
Hmm. And I think you had said on your podcast you volunteer for your sorority from
Mhm.
college. I think you said like this college girls, they don't want the really curated feeds anymore. Didn't
Mhm.
you say that? Like they had said that to you? Like that is not what is working anymore. It's really being your
Yeah.
authentic true self, which is
Yep.
fantastic news for everybody.
It is. I agree. And I feel like this was like part of my, I had this like whole election recently with that organization. And like part of my whole speech with it was like, this is such good news for us because connection is our business. That's what
Yeah.
we're here for. And that comes from being real. And it's
Mhm.
so true in business too. Like people are looking for real. And I think how freeing for those of us who are not the like super curated aesthetic type people. Like I think that stuff is always going to have a place. Like
Mhm.
people are never going to stop liking beautiful things. But also, it's just nice to know that there's space for those of us who are not as much that way to
Mhm.
come out and be our real selves, whatever that is, on social media.
Yeah, the grid is not as important as it used to be. Oh,
Mhm.
yeah, not to say people don't love it and appreciate it, but people aren't going to not book with you because of your grid.
Yeah. And I think that there's a lot of pressure on business owners to have the grid looking a certain way. And I love to look at other platforms to kind of like get inspiration and think outside the box on the platforms where I am. So I think probably a lot of your people are on Instagram. I market on Instagram as well, but I consume a lot of TikTok and people's feed or like when you go to their page, their profile page, it's
Hmm.
not aesthetic. It's just like all their videos.
Yeah, it's just chaos.
Yeah, and like that's just what it looks like over there and that's what we're getting used to.
Hmm.
And so it means I think that there's more opening for that kind of thing on Instagram for it to be less of like, here's the museum that I've curated and more of like, just here's me, whatever that looks like.
Yeah. And if that means you don't want to dance in front of the camera, then you don't have to dance in front of the camera. I mean,
Yeah,
there's so many options.
I agree. Please don't dance if you're not into that. You don't have to do that.
Yeah, and if you like to dance, then keep dancing because it's entertaining
Right.
for people who, who it's authentic for you and you're comfortable doing it.
Hmm.
But it doesn't have to be so black and white. I think, you know, the rules of consistency. I think maybe that's something we can talk about is like the people's, especially around marketing, is the rules of consistency that people hear all the time. And like it's important to be consistent. And then they kind of get trapped in that belief. And then that belief actually prevents them from being consistent.
Yeah. I think it is to me so similar to like diet mentality or something where it's like, oh no, I had one bad item and now it's ruined. It's like, oh, I missed one day of posting or even 1 week of posting. It's ruined. And it's like, no, just get back on your plan.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be dramatic.
Or I posted and no one did anything, no one cared.
Yeah, keep posting.
Yeah, it's like I did a workout, I didn't lose any weight. It's like, uh-huh.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
No one ever loses weight from one workout. Like that's not a
Maybe a
thing.
really intense workout.
24-hour workout where you didn't drink any water and yeah, then maybe you'll lose a couple pounds in water weight. But yeah, you don't like that's the long-term game. I was talking to one of my clients about this the other week and I was saying that my real views had been low and I wasn't really sure why it was. And not low, like no one was watching, but lower than they had been. And she's like, well, aren't you just like, don't you just want to give up? And I'm like, well, if I give up, then I'm for sure not going to get any more views. Like that doesn't like it's hard. It can be hard. And like you're like, okay, what's going on? And then you feel like you just kind of think about like what's happening, your content, what's happening with me, that maybe that's why the content is not getting the views. But just being like, well, it's not working, so I'm not going to do it at all now, you're for sure guaranteeing it's not going to work.
Yeah. And I think something that we underestimate is no matter what the views are, like as long as there's a couple of people looking at it, they could be the right couple of people. So we want to be just like open to that. It doesn't have to be thousands and thousands of people for you to have a successful business. But also, we really underestimate what's happening on the other side. And the people who are watching us, who have not hired us yet, maybe not even talked to us yet,
Mm-hmm.
but will. Like, think about how long you followed me.
Yes.
And clearly, I was aware of you since it feels like we've been working together for so much longer than a year. Like, you commented on stuff. I knew
I was in
who
your
you were.
DMs a lot.
Yeah, we chatted. But like it took a long time for you to actually be ready to work with me. And ultimately you did. And like now we've worked together a bunch, you know?
Yeah. And I was actually just thinking about that because so Samantha, one of Samantha's strengths is like networking and talking online and being like approachable online. And so I wasn't your client, but I would have like if you did Q&A, I'd always have a question. I would DM you frequently, and you were always very approachable. You didn't give me like free business advice or anything, but you were always very like friendly online, but you weren't like you weren't annoyed because I hadn't ever worked with you, but you also weren't like the book was open, so if I thought about working with you for a while and in different circumstances in my life, and if you had been cold to me or like ignored me, I definitely would have never continued to want to work with you.
Yeah. Who would? Who would want that? But I know it's really common.
I think people get fatigued because they're afraid people are asking them for free, and especially estheticians, people ask for free advice. I'm sure people ask you for free business advice.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
Yeah.
they do. And I do feel more annoyed by that.
I don't think I had asked you for free business advice. I may have.
If I do like a Q&A and it's like, do you want free business advice? Then I'm like, I am in the mode of giving free advice right now. I'm happy to do it. If it's just like somewhat of a demand for it in my DMs, it's like, no.
But I think that you obviously have learned if someone did that, you can direct them in a way that's very friendly and kind of how to work with you to give you that advice. But you don't take it like you wouldn't if I had done that. I don't think I did. But if I had done that, you're not like, I'm going to be really rude to this girl because she's annoying me. It's like, well, she's just really desperate. Her business is not working. She's feeling really desperate. So they're feeling desperate. Their skin is hurting. Their skin is whatever. And yes, they're asking for free advice, but I can lovingly encourage them to work with me. And if they're not interested, I don't make it mean anything about me because they'd be interested in 2 more weeks or 2 more months.
Mm-hmm. And I've just seen that happen so often. And it really was a big way that I built my business at the beginning. Like I would actually go into, at the time it was Facebook groups, like, and it still kind of is, but there's a lot of places where people are having these conversations, but it was a lot of Facebook groups of people who had problems, who needed advice, who were asking questions. And I was happy to go in there and genuinely give them free advice and try to give them like my very best advice. Like, if you were my client, here's what I would tell you, kind of stuff. And some of those people started following me, eventually maybe hired me. Definitely people saw those comments and then like immediately reached out to hire me. People that were not even the original person. Because those comments were public inside that group. So that was super valuable for me in growing my business to spend the time doing that. And I do think that there's a difference between that and just like having a bunch of people in your DMs, because you get the benefit of like, I'm giving you advice, but also other people are seeing it, and that's getting my name and expertise out there. So it's like a bit of both. Kind of a win-win. So I like that type of thing a lot. And I think it's probably pretty applicable for estheticians as well.
Absolutely. I mean, if you're in the Facebook groups, people are always asking for skin help. And like the local mom groups, I see it all the time
Yeah.
for teenagers or themselves. But even sometimes if someone DMs me, especially if they're not a client, and they ask a question, maybe to a story that I just did, or so, it's not out of the blue asking for free advice. I will answer it and then I'll screenshot it and put it in my stories so that everyone
Mhm.
can get the information.
Yep.
And so you can still help people for free in a way that's not draining for you, that also builds relationship and connection with people so that they like, oh, this is like a great question that's not like that I can help maybe a lot of people with this one piece of advice that isn't
Yes.
like the same as coming in and getting the facial. Like we all know, like I did acne, and there are so many things that you can do to help with your acne, like change your pillowcases, but you can change your pillowcases every day. If you're not doing the proper home care and stuff, it doesn't really matter. So
Yep.
I would be happy to always answer a question about pillowcase changing in my DMs, but I'm not going to give you a routine from the drugstore. And so that difference between the two pieces of advice and just kind of having
Yes.
a line of like, this is the free advice I'm willing to continue to give out and support and encourage. And this is the stuff that if you really want me to give you a skincare routine, you have to come in and see me.
Yeah. I love that so much. That like distinction between like more general advice and then I need to look at your skin, interact with you, learn more about this situation before I can really give you advice there. I think that that's a great way to draw that line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's where I think estheticians can get fatigued because maybe they'll put out a good piece of content that people really engage with, and then they feel like people are pulling them for their attention. And as opposed to like kind of having a strong idea of what you will and will not do for free, then it
Mhm.
becomes like now you're afraid, like, and I have done this where I've been in the DMs with someone trying to help them 100% believing they're going to be a client and they never show up. They never book, right?
Yep.
It does happen. You do get burned, but I always learn from those situations of like how can I give the advice in a more succinct way that isn't taking a lot of my time and also is also kind of creating that boundary of this is what I can give you for here if you want just to talk.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I think that that's such a good way to look at it, and also, like, you are gonna learn through trial and error,
Mm-hmm.
and it's gonna be a little different for everybody, but I think most of us learn through doing it the wrong way or doing it the right way and realizing like, "Oh, okay, this is what works."
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious from you, what do you think are the hardest things marketing-wise for estheticians?
I think it's really making their content about their client versus themselves. Getting out of their like estheticians I see consistently like not being able to get out of their own head and think about their own business.
Mhm.
The content to them means maybe a booking, and maybe a booking that means money. So when they go to post, so there's so much writing on that post.
Yeah.
The pressure is so high, it's so precious that if it doesn't perform, then it's like it does not going to work, it's never going to work, and they give up.
Yes. Okay, I have an analogy for this that it really works for me, and I'm curious what you think about it. It feels like it's slightly out there, but
I love an analogy and a metaphor. Everyone on the podcast knows that. I always love like talking about metaphors.
perfect. Okay, so we can think about our content like it's like a slot machine.
Okay. Yeah.
So like sometimes, okay, for real, most of the time you're gonna like put whatever coin, whatever it is. I don't actually use slot machines, but like I'm familiar with the
Yes.
concept. So you like put your little coin in there.
Yeah.
Most of the time, it's not gonna be a winner.
No.
But the more you do it, the more you think it's gonna work. And the more your brain is like, each time I do that and it doesn't work, I'm getting closer to it actually working.
Hmm.
And like that is a logical fallacy when it comes to the slot machine. Your probability does not actually change. It's exactly the same every time. However, with your content, people are being warmed up and sold on you and your work with every piece of content. It just might take however many pieces of content for them to actually finally say yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I love that like slot machine analogy of like, it might be this one. And if it's not this one, like I want to hurry up and do the next one because it might be that one. And like you kind of want to get a rush from if it doesn't work and turn into a booking, you want to hurry into the next piece of content that might be and see if you can find a way to let it propel you forward when you're not getting that result that you want. It's like, all right, I'm going to do more then versus like, well, it's never going to work. It's like, no, you're getting closer. And the more you produce, the closer you get until you hit that point with somebody where they are like, yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah. And just because it didn't work when you first posted doesn't mean a week later, 2 weeks later, people
Yeah.
aren't watching it or looking at the post.
Totally. Yeah. People
Yeah.
comment on old posts all the time.
Oh yeah. I did a post, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, and it initially did not perform very well. All of this had so many views now, and I'm like, oh wow, when did this I don't know, even I forgot about this post, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I'll be getting a comment and I'll be like, what is this in reference to? And then it's like, oh, this is an old post.
Yeah. And again, going back to, I think you said this earlier, is like we don't we don't need that many people and as an esthetician to have a successful business. You cannot accommodate 5,000 people in your solo esthetician business. It's not physically possible.
Yeah. It would be really upsetting if 5,000 people showed up on the front door. Like, can I have a facial today? You'd be like, oh no.
Chaos. You can't even probably accommodate, most businesses can't even accommodate 10 new people unless you're brand new, but you can't even accommodate 10 new people in your business. Sometimes it's usually just 3 or 4 more people that really makes that change in your business financially. I know that was the case for me as an esthetician, and sometimes I just needed a few more clients to make that extra money. And so if you get 10 people that like it, and 7 of those are clients that you already have, there's a good chance that 3 other people could be potential clients. Maybe not that post, but the more that you do it, the only like, and I like this, something that you teach that I really, really love. It's like, there's only, if you're going to do it, there's only one way it's going to go. And it's going to work eventually. It's better to believe that than it's never going to work.
Yeah. And why wouldn't it eventually work?
Yeah.
You know, I always ask myself that too. It's like, if I just like continue to show up and put stuff out and offer something that I know people want, that I know is valuable, that I know I'm good at, like, why wouldn't it work?
Yeah. And the answer, because it hasn't worked, doesn't make any sense.
No, people always try to get away with this. You have probably done the same. I know I have to.
I might have done the same because that's what our brains instantly say, because it hasn't worked.
Yes. And I'm always like, hey, how many times have you done something for the very first time in your life? Oh, yeah. Every single thing at one point you did it for the very first time. Literally, even breathing.
Yes. Like my daughter is in swim lessons, and I don't know, Samantha, I was just really hoping that this would be a really easy experience. Like I was just hoping that it would just be so like kind of like ballet lessons have been. It's just fun and joyful, and she just goes and she learns her little ballet recital, and it's very sweet. Not like she refused to get in the water and like screaming for 45 minutes and then like tell me that she has to have individual lessons because she's not at all progressing in the group lessons.
Oh no.
And the 300, they're like double the price. And then my husband's like, no, I will teach her to swim. And he's like, today we're gonna go swimming. And she's like, I won't go in the pool. Like, but this, she will learn to swim eventually. So if I have the attitude of it's never gonna work and just pull out of swim lessons, no more going in the pool, no more ever swimming, she won't learn to swim. She'll maybe have to learn as an adult if she wanted to. But if I'm like, we're going to figure this out, we're going to keep trying, she will learn how to swim. She will learn how to swim.
Yes. I had a child that I was like, will this child ever be fully potty trained where they don't need to pull up at night? Like it's feeling like we're getting into like they're pretty old,
Yeah.
but they
Yeah.
do not wear a pull up at night anymore. They did get fully potty trained
Yes.
eventually. It's like, yeah, this stuff happens eventually, just like
Yes.
keep working at it. It is definitely not going to work if you're not trying or
Yeah.
if you're quitting or if you're like not willing to do the things and put forth the honest effort towards it.
Yeah, she's not gonna learn to swim if we just talk about it all the time.
Right.
We talk about
Yeah.
how she needs to swim, and my husband and I just talk about it all the time to her.
Yeah.
She's
You need to get in the pool. You need to learn to swim. And we're
right.
standing in the living room in our house talking about it.
And we can talk about it with her, trying to get her to say she'll do it, and then she doesn't. But we
At least you take her to the pool.
pool. Like it's
Yeah.
time to get in the pool, you know.
Mhm.
We're gonna try, you know, and everything that she does is even a little bit towards following their instructions. We're taking it as a win.
Oh, yeah.
So like every post, even if you get 10 likes, I'm taking that as a win.
Double digits.
What's the other option? Being like, well, it's never gonna, because again, if I had that attitude, then that's true. She would never learn how to swim for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like I tried to learn how to skate when I was like 9 or 10, and I've always been cautious physically, and I did try, but I never really like I can't skate. And I have no interest in actually learning how to skate because I don't want to fall. So if my parents had been like, you are learning how to skate, we are not quitting until you can do all of this, I would have learned. But they were like, we're not dealing with you. This is the lifelong skill you need.
They're like, we don't really care.
You can learn how to skate. You can ride a bike. Our job is done.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. You pick your battles, but when it is the business that you want to be building, I feel like that's one of the battles you should select
Yes. Yeah.
and keep going at it. And I think a lot of times people kind of have this idea like, well, like maybe I am just like not meant to do it or like it's not possible for me or whatever. But I always think like if you have a desire for it, if you have a skill set around it and you're willing to figure out the business part of it and like keep going at that part, which is harder, you are going to figure it out. It's not like you're selling something people don't want, like that's a thing. I have that conversation with clients sometimes. It's really hard to be like, I think the thing you're offering, there is not actually demand for,
Right.
but that's not true for any of your audience.
No, estheticians, everyone. Well, there are some people that are interested, but they're never going to be interested.
Right. There's
We're not
enough
selling
people
them.
who are interested.
Yes.
And there always will be, like there's never going to be some time where people are like, I love wrinkles. I'm going to add them to my face or like,
Yeah, well,
it's beautiful.
Sephora is doing really well, and Ulta and all these companies.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be a thing if people weren't going to spend millions and trillions of dollars on it.
Gosh. Yeah, they spend so much money on it, and I think personally, I think that's great. Like doing things for yourself to feel good about yourself and feel confident about how you look. Like, I mean, we're coaches, we totally are into mindset, but like
Mhm.
this feels like one of those things where like you could like really try to convince yourself that it's all good. And it's true. Like everyone's,
Yeah.
beautiful as they are, whatever. But also, it's super valid for somebody to want to spend money to
Mhm.
improve those things and to feel better in those ways. And it helps people so much.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's this self-confidence thing that a lot of people get, but also people like to go.
Oh my gosh, I love to go.
Yeah, I'm gonna go get my my day's so crazy today, but I'm gonna go get my lashes filled today, and I have been looking forward to it. I get to take a nap.
Yes.
No one
It's
is
so
talking
relaxing.
to me. I was like trying the lashes I could put on myself, and I'm like, no, I want to go and lay down and have no one talk to me. That is what I want. I don't want to figure this out. I want to have that quiet time by myself that I can totally treat myself to this.
Yes. I only do the ones myself because I'm allergic to the other ones.
That is a valid point. Yes.
It's unfortunate, but like I will go and lay there for a facial. I like it better than a massage. It's so relaxing.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best.
Yeah.
It's a treat.
Yeah. And, but this, going back to the point of, we know people want it
Mhm.
and we have to figure out why they want it. It's different for everyone, what you do. And so that is not something that's like, oh, all obviously like people who have acne, they don't want to have their acne anymore. So that's an easy thing for people to understand. Or if someone has hair, they don't want to have hair anymore. So if you don't have something that seems so clear cut, but there are reasons why people want it, even if it's not as clear cut as acne or hair removal.
Yeah, of course. I think there's so many reasons. Well, I had told you a few weeks ago, it was like, I'm going to get a facial because I'm going to be on stage for this thing. And I know that I want my skin a little more glowy than it is normally. So I need to go in.
Yeah.
People have all kinds of reasons why they want it and need it. And it really goes back to really getting in the mind of your client and understanding why is this important to them.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And once you figure that out, it becomes really easy.
Mm-hmm.
Becomes really easy because then you take yourself out of the equation. It's not about you and what you need in your business. It's about what they need. And it completely shifts the energy of your post-its. Everything completely shifts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anything else you want to share with us? This has been so much fun.
I feel like I said all of the major things that I wanted to say. And I feel like the last thing left is just like they should work with you.
Oh,
Because as your coach, like I see the inner workings of your business. I see the kind of work that you do with your clients. And I think that it's always hard to like fully convey how amazing our own work is. And so I just want to say on behalf of you,
thank you.
to everyone listening, that your work is amazing. It's incredibly valuable. You give so much, you teach so much, your clients get such amazing results that anybody who wants to grow their business is silly if they don't reach out to you.
Maybe they're like me and been listening for 2 years. I actually just had a client sign up and she's like, I've been listening to your podcast for 2 years. And like, I know what that feels like.
You're getting your paybacks. This is
Yeah.
like when you have the child that does the naughty things that you did to your parents, and they're just like, we have no sympathy for you. You deserve this.
Okay, but I was like the golden child from like baby. Like I never
Mhm.
cried, I never threw a temper
Yeah.
tantrum. I was the best teenager.
Yeah. I was on the whole, I think, better than my kids, although there's, a few no one's perfect, but
Yeah,
sometimes it's like I know I was a better sleeper than this.
I think I was because they didn't get me. They're like, you have to deal with it. So I just like that with it.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes it's like parenting styles different.
Yeah, it's changed a bit since the 80s.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I so appreciate talking to you here and hearing your advice from my audience. I know that estheticians, they're for sure light bulbs going off, being like, oh, my clients don't have any, like, they cannot relate to what I'm saying at all. So thank you for helping illustrate that. And your book is on Amazon. I'll have a link in the show notes. If anyone wants to buy your book, I highly recommend it. It's a very actionable, easy workbook to get through. You can honestly get through it in a couple of days and really then use what you have in the workbook to start making some more posts and get that confidence up.
Well, thank you for having me. This was really fun.
Really fun. It felt like we were just chatting. All right.
It did. Everyone's along for the ride with us. Hope they enjoyed.
I know. I'm like, I hope you guys liked it. Hey, if you like this podcast, please rate and review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to. I cannot tell you how much that helps my podcast grow. So you can click 5 stars if you like it and you want to give me 5 stars. And please leave a review about telling me why you like it so that I can help other estheticians grow their business. Thank you so much.